The company is actually 130 years old this year. We're now the longest continuous manufacturer anywhere in the world. With 130 years, we predate any other existing club maker by about 30 years. We are actually 3 former independent companies that, because of pure critical mass, would never have survived. So we brought them together. The 3 companies were called St Andrews Golf Company, another one was called George Nicol, and the third one was called Tom Stewart. All 3 of them Fife-based companies, 2 of them actually based in St Andrews, 1 based down in Leven, a few miles away. Involved in the company about 4 years. I'm not a golf industry man historically. I got into the business having spent 20 plus years working in the IT industry. A good deal of it as part of an IBM former subsidiary called Lexmark, who used to have quite a big manufacturing plant down in Rosyth, where we used to employ about 800 people. I was responsible at various stages for different businesses for Lexmark, from an industry business to a Dutch subsidiary to a Eastern Europe and Africa subsidiary, and I finally ended up being the sales director, marketing director based in Paris, which all led me perfectly to be able to run a golf company. However, after 20 odd years of doing this, I don't know whether it was I had some brainwave or it was the male menopause, but either or, I decided that I wanted to do something else. And I had this idea which I'd sort of had germinating away in the back of my mind for quite a few years, and that was that if I could get my hands on an old traditional Scottish club making brand, I thought there was a place for it as a very high-end niche, particularly if we could make something in Scotland, company. Because I knew even then it was probably going to be a fairly unique thing. So that's what I went looking for. I did a bit of research. I had a couple of the company names in mind, so I knew where I was trying to find. Came across them. I wrote a letter to the owner, and I just said at the time I wasn't actually looking for a job. I was looking for a hobby on the side to invest in. He wrote back and said, come and see me. I looked at the company and thought, this is an interesting idea. I felt then that probably as a hobby, probably wasn't the best investment in mine, because you wouldn't really have the ability to affect change if you're sitting in the background as a bystander. So I decided if I was going to do this, I had to bite the bullet. So I actually bought the majority share.
The clue was when he handed you the keys as he was running out the door, was it?
Well, I think the car was already running. No, one of the conditions was the previous owner is still involved. He is the only other shareholder in the company. And I took just a figurative majority share just because you need to have the ability to make a decision. And when there's 2 parties, you may not always agree. And somehow or other you need to be able to get past that. So, and that was a condition to coming on board, and he was more than willing to do it. So I got involved 4 years ago, and I inherited a company doing one type of business. And as I have said, that business very quickly became apparent that we had to do a lot of things to change. We had a lot of value add uniques in my view. Traditional company, 130 years old, unique company in the sense of manufacturing, traditional manufacturing process, based, our factory at the time was actually in the physical town of St Andrews. We had to move it about 3 years ago, and we're now in a little village called Largo Ward, which is 4 miles away. So to all intents and purposes, I still say we're in St Andrews, because as you'll discover later, most of my customers can't spell St Andrews, never mind find it on the map. So for them, it's as good as in St Andrews. We're the only club maker, not only in St Andrews, but actually anywhere in the United Kingdom, which is a big unique for us, but it's also a little bit of a sad indictment of what used to be a huge employer in this part of the world. In the sort of 50s, just to put it into perspective, most towns in Fife would have had at least 1 club maker. Now, town to be classified in Fife, there's about 75. So that gives you an idea, and that's just in the 50s. So it shows you the speed at which the industry, unfortunately, deserted these shores. Now, thankfully, we're trying to keep the last one going. It's a privately owned company, so we don't have to respond to shareholders, although I do wake up in the middle of the night sometimes in a cold sweat. I came to the business from being somebody who had worked outside of Scotland for over 25 years. So to be honest, my network in terms of business experience, types of mentality, cultures, isn't based in Scotland. And I know what other people outside of Scotland think of Scotland, and it's diametrically opposed to what we think of it here ourselves. When I talk about things made in Scotland overseas, their eyes light up. When I talk locally about made in Scotland, they're in that car with the keys on and the engine running so fast you could hardly... it's a completely opposite attitude. Now, one of the reasons I got involved was hopefully because I'd been out of the country for a long time, I could try to open up markets that would appreciate what it is we do. So that's what we've been trying to do.